Welcome back to Prairie Fox Survival. Today we're going to be canning up kielbasa. Now my wife and I, most people can it in quart jars, but we're going to be canning ours in pints because with the two of us, we just don't eat as much as we used to eat. And we're not going to bore you with going through the cutting of all this, but we would like to show you what we're dealing with. And what we do, we know the size of our jars, we start cutting it up and setting it aside. And when we come to a joint like this that's not going to can, we just cut it off. And with these, what we'll be making is we'll be put them in a jar, and when our cabbage comes in, we'll cook our cabbage and just throw them in there with it. Makes an excellent meal. We have our kielbasa cut and we're ready to start putting it in the jar. As I say, kielbasa is a very easy food to can. Now, my wife and I don't eat as much in our elderly years as we used to. So what we're doing, we put 3 kielbasa in to a pint jar. And we cut a kielbasa long ways in half, and that finishes filling our jar. Just shove it right in there. It's not going to hurt a bit. As you saw in the beginning, our sausage links we were cutting from were very hard. And when you get to the curve in them, where they've been bent around, a lot of times you just can't get that in a jar as small as what we're doing for the smaller amounts we're making. So what we do is we take those and we chop them up. And then when our cabbage or whatever comes in, we're going to can them this way. And we can put them in cabbage, we can just do them as barbecue, however we want. And you want to be sure and leave about 1 inch of head space for your water in every jar. Okay, I really don't want to fill those two any fuller. I'm going to set these aside for right now, because today this is going to be a trial basis we're just doing with the kielbasa. We've never canned hot links, and I'm wanting to try a couple of jars of it. So if we have some left over on our hot links, we'll just add our kielbasa to it. The hot links we're going to do exactly like we did the kielbasa, and just put them in the jar, and then we're going to fill them with hot water. Alright, we have our jars filled and ready, and on the stove I have a large turkey pot I'm boiling water in, because you want your water to go in, and you want it as hot as you can get it. So we're going to begin very hot and messy. I have to get another scoop of water here. Before I do, now these I don't need to, there's no air. I'm just taking a wooden spoon and I'm putting down in my jars. And what this does is it takes any air bubbles out and brings them to the top. And you want to do this with every jar, even with your kielbasa. Now looking in here, I really don't see any air, but we want to make sure. Okay, and I'm going to get some more water. Okay, we have our lids ready. It's very important you boil these in hot water. Okay, before we put our lids on, you want to be sure and light every rim. And you want to feel, as you're doing this, to see, if you have older jars especially, if you feel a chip or an indentation in the top. And if you do, just get rid of the jar. Throw it away. Okay, with that done, we're going to put our lids on. You want to put your lids in a pan of water and boil them on the stove to heat them. And that helps the rubber seal. Ouch, when that water's hot. Okay, before I go too far, we want to put our rings on. Now you want to secure your rings down, but don't force them real hard. Otherwise you won't be able to get them off, and it can end up breaking your jar. I guess that would help if I had a lid on it. If one does that, get another one. Don't use it. Okay, we have our lids and our rings on, and we're getting ready to start putting them into the canner. Now with wide mouth jars, which we don't have this many today, we can only do 18 jars at a time. When we're using small mouth jars, we can get 20 in. We're going to want to put our divider in here. Okay, and before we put these jars in, we had put 2 quarts of water in and started to heat it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put our lid on, and we're going to let it go through the venting system. And that takes about 10 minutes, sometimes 15. Locking our lid in. And this is the part we're going to be watching. And as this starts heating up, 10 to 15 minutes, we'll put our hand over it, and steam will be coming out of there. When that happens, we're going to put our jiggler on it. You tell me when. Okay, we have a good head of steam coming out of there. So we're going to put our weight, our jiggler as I call it, on it. And at our altitude, and you always want to check your altitude, we use number 15 on it. And we'll set that on, and in a few minutes, you're going to hear it jiggling. And when that happens, it's starting to build up the pressure. And we've taken the air out of it, and we want it to jiggle anywhere from 3 to 4 times a minute. Okay, our weight's beginning to jiggle now. So what we're going to do is keep adjusting our fire. Like I say, we want it to jiggle about 3 to 4 times a minute. And this can take just a little bit of time. Okay, I think we have our temperature correct here right now, and just kind of checking it to be sure. And once you have your temperature set, you want to keep checking your pressure canner all the time, just constantly, to make sure the heat's staying uniform in here. And you may have to adjust it while you are canning it. At this point, I think we're in good shape. And now it's time, we have it set right, check your time. And you want to can these for 75 minutes. On a pint, 75, on a quart, 90. And I think we're in good shape here.